From Viagra 2?
Vagra. I wrote it down.
Yeah, Viagra 2. It's a really hard planet.
Oh.
You got a haircut.
I didn't.
I
feel
like
I did get a beard trim. I did a beard trim.
Yeah, the beard
which
trim.
Which deceptively makes
Yeah.
the rest of my head look better.
Yeah, no, really, it doesn't look like you got a full-on haircut. It's weird.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing.
I feel like that was like really subtle shade because you let him get into his joke and then oh, you got a haircut.
No, I just say things.
We just also ignore when
too.
Jake says things sometimes.
Because they're usually stupid.
Okay, fair. That's a good tip.
Welcome to A Star to Steer Her By, Star Trek podcast. My name is Caitlin, and today I'm joined by...
Jake!
Chris.
And Ames. And we have a special guest this week.
Hi.
This is Dee, and
Hello.
Dee is joining us for this episode, which is episode 67.
Woo! That doesn't sound right.
It is.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah. Last week was episode 66. We killed all the Jedi.
Is that a thing?
I don't get it.
Order 66 is... yeah.
Section
Wrong.
31.
What about order 69?
I don't want to think about Palpatine involved in any kind of sexual act.
Oh, no.
That's not what you said last night.
Although in the now abandoned EU, he did have 2 children.
Ooh.
Who were both Triclopses somehow.
There's clones.
Anyway,
Let's do that.
Guys, wait. I prepared for the wrong podcast. I thought this was about Star Trek.
It's sort of a little... It's
Little
a melange.
column A, little from column B through X.
We might
So
talk
let's
about
talk
Tom Hanks for a
let's
while.
talk about Frasier again.
Oh, baby, I hear the blues. I call it toss salad and scrambled egg.
Okay, so today we're here to talk about not Star Wars nor Frasier, but in fact the episodes Skin of Evil and We'll Always Have Paris. In Skin of Evil, Troy is on a starship, a little shuttlecraft, and it crashes onto a planet because reasons. The Enterprise crew beams down to get hold of them because the life signs of the people on the shuttle, I think it's just 2 of them at the point when they...
Her and unconscious pilot.
Yeah. They're the only people on board the shuttle, and their life signs are really weak. They can't really tell why they can't get a good signal, so there's an away team. They beam down. It's headed by Tasha Yar and Data and Riker, and is that it?
Crusher.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Crusher, right. Because they were does it count? Because she was just there to, like, medic. I guess it counts. Anyway,
She's
so...
on the party.
Yeah, if you're part of the away team, no matter
All right.
how good or bad at your job you are.
All right.
So none of them are on the ocean.
So anyway, they beam down, and a really badly rendered CG oil slick starts to cross in their path, and they're like, oh no, our path is blocked by a slick, like usually happens. I was very confused by that. I mean, I get it, but anyway. They're like, what is it? It's not alive. It doesn't have a circulatory system. What the hell is it? I don't know. And then it starts talking to them in a really cheesy voice, and it fucking kills Tasha Yar.
Yep.
And guys, she's not just playing dead. We have like a 7-minute resuscitation scene. She is really dead. That's sad.
It don't
I
usually
guess.
take that long trying to resuscitate someone.
No.
Usually it's,
He's-
sorry.
He's dead, Jim. We didn't do any of these techniques in my day.
Well, Tasha Yar was important. She wasn't wearing a red
That's
shirt,
true.
so...
But they swapped red and yellow shirts for TNG, so
Fair. Yeah.
she's equivalent to a red shirt.
Fair enough. But she was a named character who'd been in more than one episode. It's a little... Anyway, she's dead.
Jim.
And I love Picard. You gotta put your feelings aside. We gotta get this done. So, back on planet Viagra 2... Vagra 2. The oil slick is on top of the shuttle and talking to Troy and, like, trying to taunt her, and she's being like, too bad your friends left you behind, bitch. And he's like, shut up, bitch. And
He really wasn't great with those comebacks.
no, he was. It was really bad. He was very Melvar-esque. And so she's like, I'm really sorry you're hurting. And he's like, whatever, you don't know me. And he goes back to his room and cries.
What are you, a counselor or something?
Yeah, what, he's some kind of counselor? He tries to swallow up Riker. Well, he does swallow up Riker. And we watch Troy, like, having orgasmic convulsions while he's, like, being tortured because they're mind connected or some shit. It was really weird. I felt really uncomfortable watching it. And then she's like, let him go, and he does, and they trick the thing and beam everybody up because it turns out that when he's on the shuttle, whatever was blocking the life signals was lowered because Troy was distracting him by making him face his rage head on. So while rage was being faced head on, they beamed everybody up, and the day was saved. We had 10 minutes of Tasha Yar saying goodbyes to everybody, including a goodbye to Wesley, which was really specific about how he was young, and made me say, does she, like, re-record this every week, or what?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
I mean, she clearly recorded this before the events of The Naked Now.
Yeah, so that's why she'd have way
Data's
more
goodbye would have been a little different.
You have the heart of a child, but the drive of a porn star.
And you are versed in many techniques. And then there was We'll Always Have Paris, which is 50% Jean-Luc Picard has a boner, and 50% oh fuck, I broke time. With my boner, yeah. I was actually just thinking that, so thank you, Jake.
That's basically the plot of the Back to the Future Part 3.
It's true. So,
I'm remembering that boner now, so yeah, there it is.
Is there a boner in
Back to the Future 3?
Who had a boner?
I mean,
Christopher Lloyd.
Doc's hat
okay.
is pretty weird.
Were his gadgets going off awkwardly?
Anyway.
And We'll Always Have Paris, Jean-Luc Picard, well, so the Enterprise crew are on their way for some shore leave, which is never a good sign. And Picard is doing some fencing, and there's some kind of weird, like, time thing where they loop back and relive 2 seconds, exactly the way it happened the first time. What the shit was that? Well, it turns out it wasn't just a weird thing that happened, it was part of an experiment by Mannheim. What's Mr. Mannheim's name? Paul Mannheim. And not just the Enterprise crew, but the entire, like, galaxy. It's, like, kind of radiating outward and causing everybody to have this hiccup. Time hiccup. And also...
Data wouldn't call it a hiccup.
Yeah, was he, like, trying to say it was more like a fart? Like, I was really...
I mean, he practices sneezing once. Was it like that?
Was it like sneezing? Is this how a Klingon sneezes?
Data is the master of bodily functions, is what I've learned from this episode.
Speaking of masters of bodily functions, did anybody else catch that guy that was jerking off that instrument in the Paris?
Daddy, I would like to take up an instrument. I do not want to join you in your cobblering business.
Cobblering.
You son, you will be a cobbler whether I tell you to or not. But Papa, I want to play the boner pipes. I have been practicing for this all of my life.
Or at least since puberty.
Definitely went to Italian there for a second.
It did get a little Italian.
Jake
I like
usually
it
goes
the
all
spicy
okay.
meatball.
My notes, I dubbed it the masturbatophone.
Nice,
good too.
nice.
So, speaking of boners, turns out Dr. Mannheim's wife is Janice? Janice? Oh, yeah, you're right. It was like Denise.
Yeah,
Janice. Janice was an old flame of Picard's who he abandoned to join the service because he was a pussy instead of just saying, I don't know if it'll work out between us, I'm leaving. And, what?
He was already the captain of the Stargazer.
Well, he was, like, on his way out.
Oh wait,
Jake's
sorry.
nerd voice just kind of
That was your like nerdy interruption.
I have a quibble.
Dirty as fuck.
He's referring to his glasses.
Oh my.
Radio, it works.
Boing. So,
Janice.
I don't know what the fuck I was. We're talking about Janice. Oh yeah, so she's like kind of coming on to Picard, and he's like, but your husband is dying from some space fuckery.
Time
fuckery that he did. And, you know, I'm honestly not clear on how they fixed it. Data figured out some stuff, and Dr.
Data fucked it
Mannheim
to death. That's what happens
told
every time.
him how to get into his lab, and he injected some antimatter, and then there were 3 of them, and
Yeah, which
it
is
was
my
really
dream.
neat. Yeah, well, yes. And, yes.
Just like
We would need 6. We need 3 each.
Tasha died at the worst possible time. She missed triple data.
Man.
Maybe that's what heaven is. Unlimited data. Anyway, like Ames said, the Data fucked the thing to death. and everything was fixed, and Paul Mannheim is magically cured, and
Will continue neglecting his wife.
Yeah.
yeah, can't wait to get back to the lab and start.
Hold on, let me put you in the chamber that you have to be in while I do my experiments.
No, it's to protect you from them.
There's a vacuum in there. You might as well make use of your time.
No.
Well, I mean, we'll get to that when we get to it.
I left
but,
some socks with holes in them and a darning needle.
I mean, this is the episode that doesn't just...
Stitch in Time
a stitch
saves
in time.
9. We got this.
That was probably, that was some bad dialogue.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, that is the episode that didn't just fail the Bechdel test. It, like, took a shit on it and lit it on fire. So...
We'll always have Paris?
Yeah. But we'll get to that when we get to We'll Always Have Paris.
Oh, yeah, because, that's true.
Troy
and Crusher, too.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, but Troy and Crusher... Oh, right, they're only talking
about
Connor's.
Picard.
Yeah.
Skin of Evil. Holy cow.
This is the story of Tasha Yar. Grew up in a dump, but looked to the stars.
Aww.
She got a job on a ship and touched Data's dick. In the end, she got killed by an oil slick.
Wow.
That's
actually pretty
That's
good.
really good.
So I was interested in coming to talk about these episodes in particular because I always, when I was a kid, I really liked Tasha Yar. And I was like, oh, that's the episode where she dies, so there has to be some good Tasha Yar stuff. And like,
She dies super early,
yeah,
though.
what? Like, so strange that she doesn't feature in the episode in which she dies.
Except they do make a big deal about how she's, like, the favored to win the wrestling competition or
The
whatever.
martial
Martial
arts.
arts.
It
Not
doesn't-
any
that
specific
doesn't
kind.
come up
Just...
either. Like, you would think like they would have made it the Natasha Yar Memorial
Yeah.
Martial Arts,
Or
something.
canceled it, or...
I know, everyone put their money, they bet on Tasha. Like, where's that money
You
gonna
know
go
that
now?
other guy that was competing was like, yes,
Yeah, automatic
I am a
round 2.
shoo-in now.
He got to buy.
And until Data entered in her memory, and it was just like, oh, fuck.
But that scene was actually like cute. So okay, I was very careful to list everything I liked about this episode because it's so bad. Everything with Worf's whole arc I thought was very nice.
I liked it, too.
Yeah.
His
I
like
liked
little
it.
interaction with Tasha, which is actually totally sweet. And I've been watching a bunch of the season 1 episodes to sort of like recontextualize for this. And I actually like their interactions because it's a case where two main characters kind of have a relationship that's different from everybody else because he works for her. So they always have these little asides where she's like, Worf, did you do that? And he'll be like, yeah, and here's like some information about it. And they're like, oh. And then like they turn out to everybody else. So that was like a nice little scene. And then like his little arc of like, oh, I have to step up now that Tasha's gone.
Yeah, and he totally
was
wants to
nice.
go to a battle. He's like, oh, I want to go battle with the oil slick, but I can't because I have to be professional and do my job.
Responsibilities now.
Man.
That doesn't stop him ever again in the future.
Well, for Tasha's sake, he's being normal
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He learned a lesson from Tasha. She, but it's always a journey.
It's true.
Yeah, had the early half of the season spent more time on things like that and less time on awkwardly shoehorning
Oh my!
Wesley
that
into the
somehow
plots.
sounded dirtier now.
That's the thing I've noticed too lately is I feel like either I've got Stockholm syndrome or the writers have gotten better at using Wesley effectively because he bothers me way less
He
lately.
had so little to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Let me just stop you right there. It's because he was barely in either of these episodes.
But no,
They're
not
doing a
just
good
this
job
week.
of limiting the screen time.
I was just thinking the last few weeks it occurred to me like I really haven't. When he has shown up, I haven't been like, oh my god, him again. But
Well, don't worry, Skin of Evil is also his last appearance in this season, so
Oh,
there's
really?
3
Woo!
episodes without him to go.
Wow.
But no, I like overall that's things. I feel like they're starting to get their shit together.
Yeah.
I
which
agree
is
with that.
good.
I'd also say, to shift things to another thing that I mostly liked, there probably were moments where I didn't, but I think this was a good use of Troy.
I agree.
Yeah.
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 When she's
yeah.
she's empathing really hard, she's counseloring real hard, which is her
Yeah.
fucking job, and she's doing it for a change.
Yep.
I think this is a case where, and gets at one of the bad things about the episode, like, Armis makes so little sense that it's, like, very believable that you actually need an empath. Because,
Yeah.
like, I was just like, what is this weirdo's deal?
Yeah, because he's not going to tell you.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Like, good, like, Troy is here to actually figure stuff out that you couldn't figure. Like, it's not like,
she's here to...
geez, like, I think he's lying.
I think he might be mad. Everything's really, this is super awkward.
But, like, she can actually understand him in a unique, like, her superpower is actually useful for once, because she's not just saying, I think he's angry, Captain, and somebody's like,
there's some tension on the ship, Captain,
Someone's
as we hurtle
lying.
towards certain death.
Yeah. You know, the bridge is on fire. I'm sensing worry. No shit! Like this time she was actually getting to things that were hidden.
Yeah. And she felt like those scenes with him, with Armis, felt powerful. Like, it felt like, oh, she's actually really having an impact on the situation.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
cool.
they did have to, like, specifically tell us, whenever the creature is with Troy, it lets its guard down.
Yeah.
Like, thank you, Worf. You've done your job.
so
You've learned what your job is, and you've done it. Well done.
This goes back to one of the bigger problems I have with Troy is that her powers and abilities are so inconsistent. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, I feel deceit, or, you know, he's not being completely honest, and other times it's just straight up mind reading.
Yeah.
You know, like in this episode and
He's
in
a
the
different
next
creature.
episode, I
He's
think.
a weird kind of creature. So this guy, I don't know what's on his mind. So
Yeah.
Where is his mind?
So, yeah,
There.
and so if we want to talk about things that are bad, like, what is Armis's deal? Like, I think
he's a skin of evil.
He's a skin of...
Dun,
So
dun, dun.
they couldn't decide, like... I feel like they couldn't decide if, on the one hand, he was... My memory of it was that he was supposed to be, like, the embodiment of all evil. Like, he's so deeply evil. And even Data is like, I think you should be destroyed. And you're like, oh, wow, Data.
Yeah, no, that's
Did you
true.
hear that voice, though? That was evil.
But then they, at the same time, he has the most childlike Freudian issues. It's like, I was abandoned by my mommy, and I'm very lonely, and so I hurt people. I act out and hurt people to try to get attention.
But
it's
I'm
literally his motivation.
But I'm literally made of evil, so this
Yeah.
is the only thing I know.
Yeah, so
Which is
it's
a
just-
weird thing. The weird, like, Armis's origin story is all the people of this planet found a way to remove the evil from themselves.
It's using that tape that you put on your feet before you sleep.
Those-
Toxins out.
I have
They
some of
just
those because my
squeeze
mother
that
got
out,
them.
and
They're
that's,
weird.
That's what Armis is. He's just
the squeezings.
the squeezings from people's toxins.
So but that is, I mean, that was his origin, right? Because I thought maybe I
Yes.
was misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it was that in some way that's not explained at all. Like, these people cast all of the evil out of him, and that's what he is.
It sounded very like Greek mythology to me.
I was-
They
well,
took
I
all
was
the
gonna
evil
say-
out, and then it became a form.
I was going to say that he's probably his progenitors were the Metrons from the original
Oh,
series.
interesting.
Which ones were the Metrons again?
The Gorn fight.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they're like another one of these sort of godlike beings.
Yeah, they're kind of I mean, they're badass, sort of, and they dress Greek, kind of,
Okay.
And they glow.
and they glow, and they're like,
And they're
you
played
people
by
are
men, but
evils.
voiced by women, or
Or
vice
the other
versa,
way
probably.
around.
Yeah. So that's my fan theory is that they're the
I mean, here's the thing. that
Metrons just dumped them there.
the joke's on whoever it is, though, if it wasn't the Metrons, because as we learned from The Enemy Within, you need your evil, or your good part just dies.
It's true.
I mean, in theory, so should the evil part have done, but...
Well, but Armis is so pathetic. Like, he's
Yeah.
just such a like, he feels like he has a toddler mentality.
He kind of does.
He's
Well,
a little
he'll-
like Trelane in that way.
Yeah.
He feels like when Borat doesn't understand how jokes work, you know? Where he's like, want me to tell you? I'm not going to tell you. And it's just like, that's not... What are you doing? Like, he just seemed really... It was... Yeah.
So
pathetic is a good way.
And we have to. So I'm going somewhere about Armis with this, but like we should probably acknowledge like the death of Yar is like the weirdest, stupidest way to kill a character.
Oh no, Gene Roddenberry
gonna-
specifically wanted it to be like quick and not a big deal because it's her job. It's
Yeah.
she lives or she works a job that has a high mortality rate.
Well-
Someone was going to die.
I also want to defend that choice as well, just a little bit, because I think as a main character in a TV show, every now and again in a TV show you have a character die, a main character, a named character, and it's usually typically a drawn out affair,
Big fucking deal.
you know. And usually it would be at the end of an episode, not the beginning.
And usually saved for a season finale.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that in doing it this way, the writers, for better or worse, really set the expectation that, oh, shit's about to go down. They just redshirted a main character on the show. And
Well, I think...
if it had been a better episode,
Yeah.
it might have worked better, but like...
Well, and so that's actually... Sorry, Chris, you were going to say something.
Oh, what I would say too is the thing is with the sort of the quick like whatever death, you figure because I was saying this to Caitlin earlier, like this is the late 80s. You know, the internet isn't as ubiquitous. Most of the audience wouldn't have known this was coming. You know, most folks wouldn't have known, like nowadays we would have read months ago, Crosby not renewing contract. So it's like, all right, we know
at what
she's
point is
leaving.
she gonna be
We don't know
off?
how she's going to leave. But then when she bites it, she's actually dead. But I mean, this is Star Trek. You know, people probably don't know. They're like, oh yeah, there's going to be some sort of, she'll be alive by the end. Oh fuck, she's dead. So like it really wouldn't have been able to sink in for the audience probably until the like memorial scene. And the credits roll, they're like, oh no, she's dead. Like, we lose that now knowing she's really dead then. Mm-hmm. But back then, again, especially Star Trek, it's a named character.
She's in the she's in the credits at the top of the show.
Yeah, like, there were a bunch of fake-out deaths in the original series that were undone by the end of episodes. Mm-hmm. They killed Spock and brought him back next movie, like...
They killed Doc, and he became a plant creature.
Yeah, so, like, there's that extra... People would have spent most of the episode going, like, all right, how's this gonna be... Oh, fuck, it's not being undone.
Yeah, but there's a way in which it's like it's so utterly pointless, like that. I think that I see the point about like, oh, like we're portraying like a real ship, and there are security people, and they have dangerous jobs, and they die. Except, of course, that's not how the show works. Except when this actress wants to get out of her contract. So it feels jarring, right? I guess it's like, it feels like it's coming from a different... I can see these aesthetic arguments for like, oh, it can be effective to, kill somebody without... Yeah. But that's not what the genre of the show has typically been. Like, if you watch Game of Thrones, you expect that, and that's part of what draws you to it. And like, that's not generally what people expect from Star Trek. And so it feels like sort of using Yar as an instrument of the story that way, like, to me it feels sort of, I guess, like, disrespectful of the character. Which is sort of unfortunate since it is the sort of like first action-oriented female character who was ever on the show. That is sort of like, yeah, like we would never do this to Picard or Data, of course, but yeah, our action lady is kind of disposable, so like she just gets offed arbitrarily. And like I see the point about, like, I see Roddenberry's point, but like it is fiction. Like the show's not generally written as this like really hard simulation of like how a starship would operate. Yeah. The other point I want to make is that like it then actually, I think it's sort of to me it's sort of the opposite effect of what you brought up, Jake, of like, oh, it really raises the stakes because you're like, oh, she's dead, wow, everything's on the table, and then he steals Geordi's glasses and says, haha, nerd, can't get your glasses.
Yeah,
like, and that's the rest of the episode is these schoolboy pranks.
Speaking of Geordi, did anyone notice that Geordi dropped his phaser into Armos when Riker got eaten?
No.
And then later had his phaser back?
No, I didn't. Man. So basically, that prop person who forced Gates McFadden to like fling her stuff to him first was super pissed at LeVar Burton.
Yes.
LeVar, where's your phaser? Is it in the goo? No, it's in the goo, isn't it, LeVar? Maybe.
There was a really nice LeVar Burton moment, because they bring him down, and nothing ever comes of this, which is another, whatever, like, bad writing, but he specifically is like, I'll go down on the OA team the second time.
To look with my visor.
I'll see something, and nothing ever happens.
No.
That's
but
true.
he does when he comes down. He has this adorable business where he's like, he leans forward like, oh, what's that? Like, it's really good. Actually, LeVar Burton is so cute.
He could see rainbows on the slick. That's what he could see.
That's
That's different. That feels like in line with what we've seen that his sight sort of looks like.
I was shocked. Can I just say shocked that they did not have him attach his whatever visor sensor thing from Heart of Glory. I was sure we were going to see that all the time after that episode.
In this episode, the cold open was a little odd because they did this thing where, the warp drive is down for maintenance. And then there's like, they make a big deal about,
Oh yeah,
we cannot do a cold start, Captain. We'll blow the engine out.
We met a new pissy engineer in Lieutenant Commander Leland Lynch.
Leland T. Lynch. He said it every time.
Every time he calls the bridge, Leland T. Lynch here, Captain. It's really good.
The fuck.
But yeah, so and then like they go through this whole silly thing of like putting the crystal in the chamber, and
Putting
the
the Jell-O
computer's
mold
like,
on
that
the
is
table.
not advised. Fuck you, computer! Fuck you!
Yeah,
You're, like so irrationally angry at the computer.
Like, it's such a there's just so clearly need a principal character as the chief engineer.
Yeah.
'Cause, like that's the Leland T. Lynch gets so much drama in this episode. Like, come on, Leland, you can do it. Like, why?
But like it's so silly because it happens, right? This whole thing happens, and you're like, whoa, shit, Lynch, fuck, and then.
No, doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
His
Like,
hand alignment was fine. The ship can hit warp 8, fine.
yeah.
All that
Captain,
bullshit.
I said minimal warp!
You're not
all
even
that
listening.
bullshit could have just been solved by they were already at maximum warp, but they just couldn't get there in time.
Yeah, there's no reason to have that whole thing, I don't think.
I guess
No.
They had the fucking Jell-O mold for the
Yeah.
crystal thing.
Guys-
They really wanted to show it.
The other option was more of Troy quasi-talking Viagra 2 to death. What's his name? Vargas? What is
Armus.
it? That's
the
it.
planet is Vagra, the being is Armus.
Thank you, Armus.
So, am I the only one that actually kind of liked this one?
I liked parts of it. And the thing is, like, as a whole, it felt kind of like a letdown. Like, cool, Yar's dead. Nothing else really happened here.
Yeah, that's a hard pass. for
Troy
me.
was fine.
See, that's the thing,
Riker covered in goo was fun.
all I could think was when they first get to Venkman after he's been slimed in the first
yeah.
Ghostbusters. I just wanted Riker to go, I feel funky. It's like, come on, dude. You referenced Shirley Temple last week. Where's my Ghostbusters nod?
Yeah.
She's a good ship.
But no, see, so I
Love
guess
that.
I was okay with this one. I didn't mind it. I sort of liked that the villain was just something that couldn't be dealt with in a rational adult way, so Picard just kind of had to, like, angry dad at it until it fucked up, and he's like, peace!
Yeah, it was the embodiment of evil, though.
But
Which was kind of dumb.
Well, the embodiment of...
Real minor evil.
The embodiment of...
The embodiment of evil is stealing a blind man's glasses.
I mean,
It's so
it was
horrible.
pretty...
Yeah, it's to me he's just like he's too to sell it with like, oh, he's the embodiment of evil, the skin of evil, and he killed a not beloved character. He killed Tashiar. He killed beloved by like a very young
Data.
me. And by Data.
They killed a character.
And then like, oh, I will take your glasses, and like Picard's like, you should let my crew go, and he's like, okay, like, yeah, it's just like he was such a little space, like angry space baby.
Well, here's the thing,
Yeah,
though.
it's so
Is
weird.
Picard's greatest fear is children. And he
Right.
just overcame one of the biggest children in the universe.
Will Riker?
I feel like I didn't dislike this episode that much. I mean, I didn't think it was great, but there's worse episodes.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I'll actually say this about both episodes this week, is that in either case, I feel as though they both read like original series scripts, and that like you can like do this right now in your mind. Swap out this episode. Swap out the actors with the original series cast.
Yep.
In this episode, and it still works.
Yeah, I agree with
and
that.
it makes sense.
Well, and especially like the Crusher, like, do it again, hit it again. It
Yeah.
felt very
that's very
damn it,
cool.
Jim. She
Yeah.
shouldn't have gone this way. She was a fighter.
It feels like a leftover
feels very
script from the
Bones.
original series that they're like, oh shit, with this one.
Yeah.
Skin of evil. All right, well, guess we'll film this.
I actually had a similar thought about both of them, actually. The only thing is I think they did have to, they would have to have rewritten the ending. Because the only difference is the way it would have worked in the 60s was they would have found a way to actually be able to kill... What the
Right.
fuck is the slick's name? Armus. So I was going to call him Melvar.
Armus Brooks.
Like, that's the one difference. There wouldn't have been the, like...
We left a probe to like keep them away. Oh yeah, the whole like speech.
Yeah,
I think Kirk would have done the same. I can see Kirk doing exactly what Picard did because it's like talking a computer to death.
True. So
Except
maybe
This statement is false.
at the very least, he would had to have had some fisticuffs with Armus, whose special effects would not have like the weird.
It would have literally been a trash bag
Yeah.
on a couple of
with
like,
maybe some
coat
gelatin
hangers.
on it. Yeah, aside from that opening, I don't think it was CG. I think it was hand drawn movement for the slick.
Animated.
A lot of the effects for Armus were pretty
Yes,
They looked good.
but in the original series, it would have looked absolutely putrid.
Except for
Apparently
swallowed Riker face. I didn't feel like that looked
No,
like Riker at all.
that was a bad cast of his face.
Yeah.
Apparently, the costume of the oil slicked thing, whenever he went into the liquid shit, it would start dissolving the seams.
Oh no!
Well, and yeah, so I read an interview with Denise Crosby about the episode, and she was saying too that they didn't have an air supply for when they went down.
Nope, you have to hold your breath.
So they would just be like,
Jesus.
okay, we're lowering you down, hold your breath, and really hope we get you back up in time. Like,
Shit.
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So they were asking her about like, was it emotional, like your last day on the shit set? And she was like, it was just really unpleasant. Like,
There was a lot of stuff going on. They actually did throw Jonathan Frakes in there. It was like printer ink dye and like
Yeah.
some kind of oozy shit.
Oh god, he must have had to have like showered for a month to get it off.
Yeah, not good stuff.
Not good stuff.
Have you guys talked about like just the fact that she wanted off the show? Like maybe we should acknowledge that.
We talked a little last week, but we can revisit. I don't know what.
Yeah,
was.
because it wasn't that she wasn't killed off necessarily for any story reason. It was really that the
Yeah.
actress just didn't want to do the show. She wanted to pursue a film career. Is that? Am
Well,
I
I think-
remembering that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that she basically thought that the part was stupid.
Yeah. Her character wasn't getting anything good to do.
Which,
Well,
to
we
be fair,
talked
After,
about-
after Code of Honor, like,
Yeah.
nothing left.
Yeah.
We talked about last week a little bit about how I just think this myself, but that Yar and Worf are kind of redundant in the cast at this point, and that could be a problem because anything that you would have your chief of security do, you just end up having Worf do it.
Yeah.
And it's like going back to your point, D. It was like they had this warrior woman character, but they're like, oh well, we better make sure there's a man around to take care of things when she can't. Maybe make
When
him a
she's on the
Klingon,
rag.
so he's a real badass.
Well, it's like, and you did say this last week, part of the problem isn't just that, but also just, you've got a Klingon on the bridge. It's, 1987-88 in the first season. So we haven't seen yet, Star Trek 6 hasn't come out. So all of a sudden, all we know as viewers is, oh, okay, so at some point in the gap, they become friends. Great. But like what you said last week, Jake, was like, the whole time you're sitting there, it's just like, but what about the Klingon? There's a Klingon. Do stuff with the Klingon. What are having the Klingon on the bridge was just too much of a sort of a temptation for the audience that also helped distract from Yar, I think, as you put it.
Yeah,
I think she's like, I honestly think that Denise Crosby is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I was always kind of like, oh, you seem like a straight up lady. You just like, tells the captain things every once in a while.
They
That's
just
kind of your thing.
Kind of fucked up the writing, which is true for, again, much of this season is fucked up the writing.
I don't know. I think as an actress, I think she needed some work. But then again,
So does a lot of them.
as I say, most of the cast on this show could probably use an acting class or two.
Well, I think she's really good when because she comes back in her
Yeah,
and she
that's
is really
true.
good at that.
That's true. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a combination of the writing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
she probably grew up during that time too. Like they all did. I mean, all the acting gets stronger.
Yeah, that's true.
Grew a Riker beard. That was the trick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, the end bit, we addressed that a little.
Yeah.
The Rainbow Bridge scene.
Crossing over the rainbow.
My note was, they've set the holodeck to default Windows desktop.
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Picard goes out and says, "Oh, this is one of the saddest things I have to do." And my thought was, the only thing sadder was promoting Wesley to the bridge.
I mean, it's just like I actually thought I gave them credit. I thought the actors worked really hard in this scene.
They did.
The writing is just really.
Marina
sassy.
Sirtis was legit crying the
Yeah.
whole time too.
I just kind of hope, that whatever, hologram she'd recorded would have been smart enough to know if maybe other people hadn't made it.
Yeah, I thought
like
about that too.
That could have been really awkward.
I bet.
And Worf, there's just a pile of bones that they
No,
could
I
have
bet
right,
you
and
what-
Janice is like,
I bet it's a program, and they just plug in who is going to attend the thing.
Who is
Still
alive.
alive.
right.
So it's like, oh, we don't have one for Wesley. Wesley, you can't attend. Go away.
No, they just simulate one based on like her
yeah.
known
Wesley,
responses.
you're a boy. Well done.
So here's the thing, like, clearly I'm getting old, even though I'm not that old, because even though it was, like, such overdramatic maudlin bullshit, by the end I was very slightly, like, oh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? This shouldn't be affecting me.
No, I know what it
there
was. It was
too.
Patrick Stewart's tears. Because he was really welling up, and I was
Yeah.
like, ooh,
Yeah.
that is some good acting.
Sir
I'm on
Patrick
board.
cries, I cry.
Period.
And there was, I don't know, like, what could have been a really, like, another sort of, like, when it was like, oh god, Picard and Data are gonna do, like, a human emotion thing. This is gonna fuck up the mood. And it was like, oh no, that one was actually written.
It was actually,
All right.
that's a
That was-
nice exchange.
Fuck.
It was nice.
I like it too. Data loves Tasha.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I wish there had been some more acknowledgement of her special relationship with Data.
Mm.
Because even if it wasn't a big deal to her, because, you know,
To say in
it
a
never happened.
public memorial? No.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Data, I feel bad for Data in this situation because, like, he's really left with this feeling of my girlfriend died, I think, for the rest of his life, basically.
Mm.
And it comes up a lot for him.
Really?
Yeah, kinda.
I didn't know
wow.
that. That's interesting.
I mean, I say a lot. It comes up a couple more times during
That-
the
Enough.
That's not bad for this, though. Like, compared to the original series that had very little, I wouldn't have been surprised if by season 3, they'd completely forgotten that, Doc had Nancy.
Yeah.
So that's impressive.
Yeah, it does come up again. And, I don't know, I feel like the Data, having the final lingering shot be on Data standing there at the
Yeah.
grave,
Holodeck.
Hollow grave.
Can we also talk about... So, do you think the person that designed the holodeck memorial Windows 95 desktop program... Like, I'm sure it's just like a generic program and you load up whatever message it is from whoever died. Do you think they're like... They designed it and then somebody like was testing and I was like, you know what? For the dead person, let's turn the opacity down to about 50%.
Oh.
So, because it's weird if they're fully opaque, even though this is a holodeck and we can totally do that. But let's make them look a little bit like a ghost because that would be really cool.
I mean, this is an interesting thing though because like that is a legit thing that like death stuff is often can be really tacky and like those you do have those conversations like I mean you could go for the cheaper coffin, but like I do like there are holograms on grave sites and stuff like that.
Wait, really?
What?
That's
I think
real?
so. I don't mean like
I've seen you can get like plates that are like
Yeah.
sort of a 3D image of the person's face, kind of like a lenticular thing
which
almost.
to me is isn't what I would want on my memorial. So like I think it's fair that like to think about it's sort of fair science fiction territory to be like picture somebody being like, oh, is it weird if they're just there on the holodeck? I think it's weird. 50% opacity. That's the
For
fix.
my memorial, could you get one of those like crazy arm sock things but like paste my face on it? I think
gosh.
that would be good for my funeral.
Does a decomposing corpse give off radiation at all?
What?
I think small amounts. I don't think dangerous.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Here's what you could do. Here could be a cool
Oh,
graveside
dear.
thing.
Oh my
You
God.
could-
Wait,
so
did you guys
excited.
tell me that thing about sometimes you ignore what Jake says?
No, that's actually a cool idea. If there's any kind of emanations from a decomposing corpse, radiation, whatever, you put something in a Geiger counter that will detect that emanation, and then you run a cord up to the gravestone where you have like a display, a screen that like does like a readout of the emanations, and then like people can visit the grave and they're like, oh look, he's rotting. It sounded more.
Yeah.
It sounded better in my head. It sounded like I don't know, it's like a connection to the dead person.
Yeah, but it's mostly just a rate of rot meter.
Yeah.
Gene
Oh look,
Roddenberry.
he's rotted to
Roddenberry.
nothing.
That was his Halloween episode name. Gene
Roddenberry.
Nice.
Oh dear.
I have seen pictures of gravestones with video screens on them. I think.
It's probably cheaper than marble. Granite or whatever the fuck they make them out of.
Yeah, but in 10 years, the video format's out of date.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that is really low definition.
Well, can't support
Yeah.
the equipment.
The
doesn't
codex
support it
break,
anymore.
right? Yeah.
Your tombstone has committed
The
an illegal
graveyard.
operation and will be shut down.
Yeah, my-
404.
Your
File
grave
not
is just the
found.
blue screen of death the whole time.
Ooh, that's
Final-
kind of meta. I like
Final
it.
memorial.
That would actually be a cool get the text for the blue screen of death engraved onto your tombstone.
If that is not Bill Gates' headstone, I am going to be livid.
nice.
Yikes.
So we've wound up slightly maudlin. Any further thoughts on this before we shift over to We'll Always Have Pie?
I wish I was dead.
Wow.
What?
Holy shit.
Because you said it had gotten maudlin.
Oh.
The
okay.
I don't know this is definitely the best Troy episode we've had so
Skin
far.
of
Oh,
Evil?
absolutely. She's
Yeah.
like totally
Yeah.
useful for once.
Yeah, she actually participates in a meaningful way.
Yep.
Did Wesley have any lines, or was he just
Yeah, he had a
Good
couple
line?
about the
Okay.
energy
He
levels.
said
Okay.
something to Worf, yeah.
Good for him. This was the best Wesley episode so far.
Definitely true.
The skin of evil is stupid.
Yes.
Wait, what's that line? Is it from not Star Wars? This is why evil will always win, because good is dumb.
Oh, that's Spaceballs. yes.
Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Evil
It's
will
kind of
always
the
triumph
opposite in this
because
case.
good is dumb.
Like Picard that could have been his closing line. Good will always
Oh.
triumph because evil is dumb.
Speaking of a good Star Wars connection here,
Yeah.
See, I thought you were going to say, the little bit of Riker's face in the goo was a little Han Solo.
oh, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah,
I was
the
thinking
carbonate.
more
But yes,
of
the no.
Armistice.
No!
At that point, I turned to Chris and went over and over again.
It felt like a Klingon funeral.
True.
Pretty
That's-
well, Tasha Yar. And Pache.
A warrior is approaching the afterlife.
See, that's... Like, actually, it would have been nice if they'd somehow worked that in from Worf, but more subtly. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be weird to do a Klingon thing for a non-Klingon, even if it's Tasha.
Although she did sort of acknowledge it in that she said she faced death with her eyes open.
That's true.
We're both warriors.
How did she know?
How
How did she know? How did she know how she would die? Like if you stop, maybe that's another setting you have to have in the memorial thing. It's
No.
like, I bet I died in battle instead of from
Food poisoning.
I was going to say food poisoning.
She
Yeah.
could always have like had a step ladder in her room and slipped or something, but I think she was just playing the odds. She was like, okay, I'm a security officer on a starship.
Or it's like that old Saturday Night Live sketch where...
I was thinking of that when we were talking about this earlier, about what does she record this every week?
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Where Dana Carvey plays, I think he's playing Tom Brokaw.
Oh, recording all the...
Yeah, he wants to go on vacation, so they just want to have, if anything really major happens, it'll be a recording of Brokaw and not his fill-in. So it's like, he's recording all possible presidential deaths. And by the time, in the time of the sketch, he's on to Gerald Ford. And it's just, Gerald Ford dead today at the age of whatever he was back when the sketch was done. And the causes of death just got
kept
more and
getting
more
ridiculous.
ludicrous. And then one was like, if Gerald Ford has died, but the United States has been taken over by Zimbabwe, so it's in whatever the language of that region is. So maybe it's like that. She had all sorts of versions. Like,
Right.
hello everyone, if you're watching this, I died in a drinking contest with Worf.
I died fucked to death by Data.
Oh my.
Shouldn't we all?
I
know
died
this
like
one?
I
Way to
lived.
go.
I am a little disappointed that she did not get the traditional
Oh yeah.
Torpedo tube.
Viking funeral.
They didn't have that set. They'd blown that money on that censor room set from,
One the children shall read? No, the other
no,
one.
where Picard becomes an energy thing for 5 minutes and then says never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that episode.
That
where
would
they-
have been good. That would have been
Yeah.
a nice connection with the legacy of the series.
I mean, presumably that's what they did actually do more publicly.
Right.
But this was the private, just for my friend's wake sort of thing.
Mm.
But yes, I thought that too. Like, oh, I wanted the torpedo tube.
I'll say that as we're transitioning into We'll Always Have Paris, the big room with the time function machine majig looked really fucking good, so maybe that's where all the budget went.
Or that.
I will
Or that.
remember you. Will you remember me?
I gotta give you credit for not going with the obvious Breakfast Club song there.
Oh, don't you forget about me. I'll be along. dancing, you know it, baby.
I think Jake knows every song.
Yep, every song.
All of them.
Well, now for We'll Always Have Paris, you'll have to do the the French national anthem or that. I had not realized. I looked it up. I didn't realize that film is actually the origin of We'll Always Have Paris.
What film, Chris?
Casablanca.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll always have Paris. It's been 22 years, 3 months, and odd number of days. Jean-Luc Picard.
Seriously, giving a bit of a...
I didn't even think of that.
No, I didn't either.
That's why I said
I'm
it was
embarrassed.
It's an original series episode.
See, I was thinking original series because
An odd number of days.
I was getting vague, like, Lazarus vibes off of Mannheim.
Yes. Me too.
His beard was infinitely
because
better.
he's like, I'm stuck in another dimension. I'm halfway between. I also thought of Lazarus. I'm so excited. Go on.
I will say of this episode, the best I can say about this one is it was inoffensive but boring.
Lies. I like this one.
I
Really?
like this one a lot too. Yeah.
Oh, this one barely held my attention.
I think my problem with it is the romance subplot was unnecessary.
Yeah, that could have been dropped entirely so we could have talked more about the really interesting but barely explained time shit.
Yeah, the time shit was what I think I really, really liked, because that's some Lovecraftian nonsense that I really like. And also it meant 3 datas in a room.
3 days.
That annoyed me. I wanted an explanation.
Me too!
As to why middle data was the right
Why
data.
middle data used a contraction and said, it's me. Damn it, Data, you keep breaking your own damn rules.
He lied. We're in the darkest timeline.
Yeah.
It was actually
explains
lore
everything.
the whole time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed all of the romance stuff, and that's what I liked about this episode, because it's like it's just Patrick Stewart getting to do his best like hard-boiled detective thing.
That's true.
But it's actually like, so it's totally, of course it's totally Casablanca. I wrote down somewhere in my notes like, this is so like Victor, Ilsa, Rick, you know.
A little
like
bit.
I've never seen, so I don't know.
Oh, dude, it's so good. You gotta see
It's
Casablanca.
basically the plot.
I'll
of
add
this
it to my list.
It is very good, and you should see it. But it is essentially the plot of this episode, except like.
But I liked this episode.
Without
so
time.
There you
maybe
go.
I'll watch
But there's no
Time
time. There's no
without
time
the
magic in
time
it.
travel. Yeah, it's just like a love triangle.
How
where
many
it's like,
datas are in Casablanca?
there are 5 datas.
Yes,
in
we'll
a
watch
row
this.
in Casablanca.
Now, do you
But
think?
they're all played by Peter Lorre.
Do you think Mrs. Mannheim there,
Janice.
Janice
Mannheim.
Do you think she was Paris dreaming on such a winter day?
You lost me for a second there.
I was trying to figure out
It's
how I could.
California dreaming, Jake.
I know. I was trying to fit into Paris dreaming.
Jake doesn't know any songs with the word Paris.
Jake knows no songs.
I know. The reason it's that because it's the woman from the Mamas and the Papas.
Oh, it is.
Yes, it
It's
was. That's true.
It's not Mama Cass.
Michelle
the other
Phillips.
woman,
It's
Michelle
not
Phillips.
Mama Cass.
Okay.
The other
thank you.
woman from the Mamas and the Papas.
I thought you had just really finally broken completely. Thank
Yeah.
you for that
Oh,
explanation.
the Mamas and the Papas
I think
show.
I think she was really good, and I feel
I
liked this episode a lot because it was just a lot of scenes of Patrick Stewart like acting with like her who could like actually act and having like real emotional scenes with her.
It's
and it was
quite
nice.
funny. Some of the reception that I got on this episode was that people didn't think they had chemistry, and I actually really liked their scene together. Where it's like, no, don't tell me the truth, Picard. Lie. Tell me why you didn't
I
show
thought
up
that
at
was
the
really
restaurant.
cute.
He's like, oh yeah, I was running
that
late
was
and it was
that
raining.
It's Tuesday. Thought it was Wednesday.
Yeah, and it was also sort of like
I couldn't tell if I was British or French.
There was a
Common
weird
problem.
way in which like it felt like a utopian love triangle to me because they're all like kind of really grown up about it. Like
Yeah.
Picard like is super. He's like, "Hello, it's good to see you again, Mrs. Mannheim." And she's the whole time is like, "It's good to see you, Picard."
And
But,
Dr.
like,
Mannheim's
but there's
like,
not like
Picard?
a real thing. Yeah, and he does do that. But then like he's also there's that moment where he's just like if anything happens to me,
Take care of my
her.
wife. Yeah.
And Picard's just kind of like, "Oh, I'm not going to do anything."
Although-
but, like totally, I'll take care.
You
know.
want me to murder your wife if you die?
It's a little fucked up.
But it felt like even though there's this interpersonal drama, they were all, and I guess it's also that it's interesting maybe to see a love triangle played out between older people, which like you wouldn't usually see.
That's
It
true.
felt like a much more mature take on that usual.
That's true.
trope.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
wasn't like nobody was angry at anybody about things.
Yeah.
Like Mannheim was like, all right, yep, you're an old
Well,
flame.
he's in love with time, so
That's-
that's his triangle.
Time is his mistress.
There was the one bit though where he was like, "This is Cap the captain
Yes.
of the Enterprise.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like,
Because he normally just introduces himself.
yeah. Because I noticed the skip, and I was like, well, why did that just happen?
Time.
There's also that, I think it's when that happens, there's this really cute, like, Data's like, oh? Like, gets his quizzical look. And
I think it was,
Geordi's like, no, don't ask. Don't ask, buddy.
That's not how we roll. Geordi is teaching Data the bro code.
Yeah.
After having taught him to paint.
Yes.
You'd think being an android, he would already know the bro code.
It's part of his coding.
I get it. Code.
I have
Ames.
two like production kind of questions about this episode. One is, what did we think of the like that crazy Paris backdrop where you see like
I
future
hated it. I
Paris?
thought
It's
it was
like
terrible.
yeah, with like the tunnel going under
Well, wait,
the Eiffel Tower.
So I was
like,
trying to remember, though. Is that something we see... Oh, maybe that was 6, which comes later, so this would have established it. Because I swear there's at least one other point in Star Trek where they show that some sort of, like, train tunnel goes under the Eiffel
I just
Tower.
assumed it was an oil pipeline.
It was Armis.
See, I-
That's the trans Franco pipeline.
I don't think that the French people would tolerate.
Well,
any
that's
sort of
why-
industrial
Well, these
structure.
weren't French. Like the French culture is pretty much dead to begin with, though.
I mean,
like,
and let's be real. If the French culture died with the Wanks-accord that guy was playing,
Wanks-
Oh, wait,
Or-
and to be fair, that was
it deserved to go.
That was also like 20 years ago. That wasn't like the distant past. Like he was like recreate Paris 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So if French culture died, then like
Well,
all those people are dead now.
Well, they explained it in an earlier episode because French is a dead language.
Mm.
So and I don't know, but either
yet Picard says au revoir to Tasha.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of childish things, no goodbyes, please. Au revoir.
I got around it.
I got her.
Found the loophole. No, I do give Will Always Have Paris a lot of extra credit because I read that the script was written in 5 days due to a writer's strike.
Oh, wow.
And was actually
yeah.
handed off incomplete, and they had to write the end. They had to stop production and write the ending.
Just like Casablanca.
Yeah.
It's just like Casablanca.
Did that
Is that what
happen?
happened?
It wasn't a writer's strike, but there was
They did not have the ending written until basically they filmed it.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I think that they
interesting.
like I think I might be wrong, but I think they sort of assumed it was going to. Let's not spoil it for Ames, but like
Go the other way.
Spoiler alert for an 80-year-old movie. But yeah, they thought that the ending would be different than what it was.
They thought they would add even more data.
Well, I know, like...
They were going for 20 datas. So they were
In the original ending of Casablanca,
orgy of Yars and datas.
they do not get the antimatter into the portal at the right time, thereby assuring Nazi victory.
I think Ingrid Bergman, though, did say it kind of actually really helped her performance not knowing the ending until she got to it.
Yeah.
Like,
that
because
makes sense.
it really, she got to be genuinely torn
Yeah.
because she didn't know what she was building
Right.
towards.
My other sort of production question about this was like, what do we think about we get to see a lot of civilian fashion. Like, what do we think of the fashion in this?
The young lady in the cafe.
Oh,
That was a
little
Roddenberry.
pink
outfit.
That
thing.
was a Roddenberry with like the
Yeah.
bra and then like this part.
What's that, torso?
I
General
don't
torso
know,
area?
because she had midriff and she had like most of boob.
It was like a it was just like asymmetrical, right? Like a cut down over her.
It was
bust.
revealing.
It was very revealing.
It was very revealing.
It was revealing, but not flattering.
The short,
Yes, I
the short
agree with
version
that.
for me, as the self-appointed clothing aesthetics pedant of this show, as all civilian clothing in Star Trek,
Except McCoy's.
except McCoy's, it is hot garbage. From TNG on, they do not know how to do civilian goddamn clothing in Star Trek. It is all wretched. Because it's all mostly from the 90s. And the 90s were a terrible decade for clothes.
Yeah. Well, Janice's
Pajamas.
tie-dye clown pajamas.
With the needless cut down each
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
It's like, oh look, you can see a little side boob. I bet that was Roddenberry.
It's a throwback to TOS.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't. We did see tie dye before. What other episode did people have like tie dye pajamas?
I was trying to. She
I don't
reminded
know,
me a
Hippie
lot.
Planet?
She reminded me of Sylvia
There was
from
some-
Cat's
there was
Paw in
another
her
episode.
clown costume.
Oh yeah, I remember that clown costume.
That fucking clown costume.
Oh, I will say though, speaking of clothing, I appreciate that they were way subtler in the let's future up athletic gear than they were when they did future ski clothes in that one episode. It's like they added some sparkly to it, but otherwise it was just a fencing outfit.
Right.
You know, it wasn't
they were good.
horrible.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't know what sport Wesley was playing.
I just felt like with this one, like, and maybe it's the whole writer strike thing, but it's like, I feel like I would have wanted one episode that focused on each of these plots instead of trying to have them both together, because it felt like neither was explored
That
to the
happens a
depth it
lot.
could have been.
That happens a lot. That's why Skin of Evil actually did a fairly good job keeping focus.
True.
But I think that's a thing that many episodes. I think next week we're going to have an even bigger problem with that.
Oh, good.
Something to look forward to.
Yay! Is finding what your plot is.
Yeah.
I do know that the writers, who are two women, they wanted Picard and Janice to bang in a scene off stage, off camera. But a lot of the men specifically vetoed it, including Patrick Stewart.
Interesting.
They were like, nope.
So I can see why Stewart. I can see why they wanted that to happen. I don't think Picard would do that.
Oh, yeah, to
Yeah,
clarify.
but it's very dishonorable.
So, yeah, they wanted them to bang, like, in the present, not to have banged 20 years ago. Because I assume they
That
fucked
would be
20-odd years
great.
ago.
Oh yeah, in the present, yeah.
Yeah, no, that I can't see him
Like
doing
whilst hubby is going through his time loops.
that. Yeah, no, that would not have been, like, that would not have made sense for the character.
There's something I appreciate about wanting to inject like that more passionate romance into the story, but yeah, it doesn't seem fitting for Picard.
Yeah, no, especially not with Mannheim being, you know,
In the hospital.
Yeah,
probably dying.
in a situation where
Wait for him to have died first.
yeah,
Well,
like
that's
that,
it.
sure.
And that's the thing. For Janice, I would believe it, not because of anything about her, just because her husband is, like, dying and it's a high-stress time and you're...
Right.
Well, and
trying
he's
to,
clearly
like-
not been paying a lot of attention to her for the past.
No, I don't
God
even mean
knows
that.
how long.
I'm not
She
even.
loves him either,
I'm
so.
not even including that as part of it, though. I just mean like I think that it's an emotionally
Yeah.
tense time.
I could see
and-
Riker doing it.
It's interesting though
Yeah,
because
well,
duh.
well,
He
actually,
did.
it's funny that you mentioned that because there is a future episode which is a very similar kind of plot. There's a genius scientist with an emotionally neglected spouse, and Riker beams over there. May or may not have had not a liaison, but like flirtiness with the wife. Then something bad happens, and Riker gets to the husband, and Riker gets blamed for it and has to defend himself.
Riker.
And yeah, but it's basically so Riker
Interesting.
totally would.
Yeah. No, I totally see Riker doing it.
It is. I mean, I guess we don't really. This is maybe like the place where it could use the most fleshing out. We don't really know the truth of that conflict between Janice and her and Mr.
Paul?
Dr. Min and Paul, because we definitely get the idea like she's been lonely, but she also sort of. I mean,
She
that's
has to
kind
go
of.
in a room
She has to go
by
in a room.
herself.
I believe that there's a shelter she goes into, but the kind of the whole point of her interaction with Picard is like, I thought, and he admittedly is like, I was an idiot, and I thought I had to choose between marrying you and sort of having an adventure, and then the whole point at the end is she's like, no, I wanted to come to the ass end of the universe and like be here for crazy time experiments.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you missed out, buddy.
Wah, wah. I hope the room she was in to protect herself with was had a door better than fluorescent tubes. Fluorescent tube door. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a tough one there.
Well,
That's what makes it safe. It's the fluorescence.
That's right. If you break the glass, you're not supposed to breathe that.
That's true.
You can't walk over it either because there's glass everywhere.
That's right. It's a perfect security system.
We were talking about Troy in Skin of Evil.
I was thinking
being
this
more
too.
powerful.
Yep.
Troy is really bad in this.
She's so bad at this. She's so bad.
She just keeps
Oh,
walking
yeah.
up to people and being like, "I think that there are some issues. Maybe you should
She
deal
tells
with them."
she tells Picard, "Oh, I don't want to interfere with your personal issues, even though it's literally my job to talk about your personal issues
Yeah.
because I'm the ship's counselor." But maybe.
See, what I got a feel for her, though, because she goes up to Picard at the beginning like, oh, sir, I'd like to talk to you in private. I was like, no, it's fine. All right, well, here's
Yeah,
the
if your
thing.
ship's
Here's how
counselor
big your
wants to talk to you
boner
in
is right
private.
now.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, never mind, I don't want to talk about this. Bye! I'm gonna go play video games instead.
And her or what she says is so unhelpful. I think I wrote it down actually. She says something like,
maybe you should play in the holodeck.
She says maybe you should take some time to put your problem in perspective. It's like, oh, good thought, Troy. Maybe he should put his problem in perspective.
Yeah, I think that was really just code for maybe you should go have a wank on the holodeck.
Yeah. But then in contrast, the holodeck is a great counselor.
Yeah.
He literally I assume that you're meant to understand that this is happening. He goes in and he says create the specific scenario in Paris, and he talks to the holodeck character and is like, I'm thinking of last time I was here and I waited. Someone was waiting for me and I never came. And then immediately the holodeck presents a young woman who's he's not coming, and they get to have a conversation. I assume the ship is programmed to be I think this is what you're going for here. Let me just try it on.
Goddamn computers taking our jobs.
The ship's have you thought about putting your problem into perspective?
Should we put the organ grinder in?
Instead, the organ grinder leans in as he's playing. He's like, Monsieur, maybe your problem...
Organ grinder, that's really good, actually.
Perhaps your problem could benefit from some perspective.
I am sorry, did I get some on you?
Were those passable French accents or really bad French accents? I don't know enough about the French
they were
accent.
awful.
The young lady had a real French accent.
Did she?
Yes.
It was at least much better
That's
than the
what
others.
French sounds like?
Yes.
No, that was English.
That's what
spoken
French
with a
people
French
sound like
accent.
when they speak English.
Holy crap.
But why would he leave this?
Are you saying this or these?
These breasts.
Yeah, no, the waiter was more Belgian, I'd say.
Little Poirot.
Usually Hercule Poirot.
Hercules.
That was the murder the beginning of the Murder on the Orient Express simulation.
Man, it's
Yep,
a shame.
there you
It's
go.
a shame Picard's hero wasn't Poirot instead of Dixon Hill, because I would love to see them put that little mustache on Patrick Stewart.
I bet he'd look
God,
good.
I would like it too.
So, speaking of Troy again,
Yep.
but again, this is another instance where her powers don't make sense episode to episode, because again, she's basically mind reading in this episode too.
What was she doing?
Picking up on details
Vibes?
of Picard's feelings
And Crushers.
and Crusher.
Though I suspect that Crusher may have confided in her.
I was saying, she just knows Crusher has a boner for Picard, and is just you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to go so this is weird, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't think that when they were dreaming up the Troy character, they thought it through very well.
Yeah,
and,
no.
I think that's true.
They're gonna nerf her powers pretty soon, and it's gonna.
Well, they
It's not gonna
finally
be
buff
she's.
Reinhardt.
It's not gonna be she's a Vulcan and they just keep adding more shit on.
Right? No, exactly. They're remember
She's
she could
extra
just talk
eyelid.
to
Did we-
Riker
Did
in
we
her
mention
brain.
she can mind meld with the ship?
Mind meld with anything.
Speaking of Crusher, right? Was anyone else super creeped out when she started stroking the unconscious
that.
Mannheim's
He
hair?
likes pats. He's like a
I
kitten.
didn't notice that.
Yeah, no, this is when he's
Have you seen his
unconscious.
beard? Don't you just want to touch it?
When he's unconscious, she's scanning. It was something about his, it's a shame we couldn't talk. You seem remarkable. And then she's stroking his hair. And she has to stop quickly because I think that's when Troy comes in.
She was thinking about Picard and stroking something else, maybe.
Maybe, but it was definitely just why is this happening? I'm afraid she's a bad doctor.
I really like.
I know she's a bad
Nah, I was
did
thinking
really
that.
like the her sort of quiet subplot, because there's the love triangle, which is the episode's about,
Then there's the Data love triangle.
and then there's
three
the
Datas.
the perpetual Data love triangle, and then there's just this quiet afterthought about Crusher, where it's just I noticed that there's the first time that Janice reacts to seeing Picard, Crusher is administering to Mannheim, and has this moment where she's just turns step
Oh, I
around
missed that.
and then is no, okay, I'm busy. And then there's also, I love the scene where she walks in and she's Picard, and he's I forget what the situation is, but he was she's an old friend. And Crusher's I gathered that. Would you like an update on the patient?
Well done, Jean-Luc. You really know how to handle a lady.
I'll be glad, though, when the Beverly Picard will they, won't they thing just ends. Because it's that it's unearned.
But
it's
will
been
they
unearned.
or won't they?
Yeah,
They won't, and I won't care. I will care if they do or don't.
Fair enough.
They'll always have
Paris.
Pie.
They'll always have the bottom of that tunnel thing that they fell into on War Machine Planet. That's what they'll always have.
There is
Or
actually
that time we played Doctor.
there is actually
Thank you,
a
Connery.
second Casablanca reference in the episode. That painfully drawn out bit at the end where they're trying to remember the name of that bar. And then,
that was cute.
It's the Blue Parrot.
Blue Parrot, right?
That's
And
Sydney.
you're buying.
That's Sydney Greenstreet's cafe.
Right,
in
the
Casablanca.
competing bar.
Yep.
And again, that button was very much an original series.
It was.
Yeah.
I thought
Throwback.
that too.
You
Yeah,
know, it's
it would have ended with that like goofy music.
It did end with the goofy.
Well, I mean
music.
the.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
ended with
yeah.
the TNG
The
version.
Finnegan music?
Yeah.
No.
That's right, Mr. Spock.
No,
and
Finnegan music.
You're
is-
buying.
Well, you were talking about the that one, right? Nice, nice,
Welcome to a Starseer bias. Star Trek song podcast.
That's true. We should do an album.
I think we've threatened to have you two do an album before.
Yeah, but that was just a poop in the butt album, I think.
Well, yes, it was going to be all Christmas carols, but just you two doing it.
We're gonna replace the words to every Christmas carol with "poop in the butt."
What have you gotten yourself into, D?
Yes.
It's funny.
I liked the sequence where the three characters encounter themselves.
Yeah, I
on
was
the
gonna
turbo
say
lift.
that. I think is one of my favorite shot sequences so far. The whole show is the turbo lift.
Yeah.
It's
encounter.
genuinely like disturbing. Like there's a moment of like, whoa, what? Like,
And they talk to each other.
yeah.
Yeah, see
Like
that?
for a second, you're like, "Oh, that's just the replay from earlier." But then they both sides acknowledge each other.
See that? Yeah,
And
that
Data
I
talks
liked.
to himself.
Because
I
I
was
was
like, "Holy God!"
I was expecting it because that's normally what they do in these sorts of situations. It'd be like, they can't hear us, sir. This already happened. It's all like, no, hi. God, do I really look like that in that
And
uniform?
then what happened to the guys in the turbo lift?
Wait, I actually just put something together. Because okay, hear me out. So they go into the turbo lift and they go up the turbo lift and it opens and then they see themselves from the past. And then the camera flips and you follow the people who are outside the turbo lift.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what happens with the three Datas at the end. Where it's not the Data who's the furthest ahead in time who's in the actual timeline. So it doesn't actually tell you anything, but it's kind of consistent.
Right,
Yeah.
It is why, yeah. But there were 3 Datas.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So it's the second.
I mean, it's one of those time things where you just, if you think too much about it, it doesn't work, but it's cool in the moment.
To quote Looper, you just wind up there all day making diagrams with straws.
Yeah.
I liked Looper.
Good movie. Yeah, this one I thought was, like to clarify, I didn't think this was by any stretch a bad one, but this was definitely like a middle of the pack one for me, so I don't have a ton of thoughts on it.
I don't know. I thought the theory about time being what binds us to our current dimension, and if you can like somehow supersede time, you can go to all dimensions, is super cool.
Yeah.
So there.
That's fair. I didn't pick up on that. I got so confused by the gobbledygook about time that I was like, oh, all right, whatever.
I liked all of the like very responsible flirting that took place.
Except Bev's.
That they just feel like if Picard is going to do any kind of flirting, it would be very responsible flirting.
And I also liked the holodeck being a really good like psychologist. I wish I had a holodeck that was a really good psychologist.
Me too.
I wish I had Deanna Troy to tell me...
the obvious.
to tell me,
also
go
your
work your
problems in
shit out.
perspective.
She also she has another just classic one later in the episode. It's when she walks in to talk to Beverly, and she's just kind of like, it basically is like, hello audience, there is tension.
You're not here to check on the patient. Oh, I thought I was the empath.
Yeah,
No, you're
right,
not,
right.
though, is the thing. You're not very good.
I have to say,
Do you?
No.
Doc Crusher
Is it nice? Is it necessary?
really is not working as a character.
Or a doctor.
Or a doctor, for that matter.
Well, we don't get much more of her for this season.
That's true, and we don't get much more of her for a season. So I think part, I've always sort of blamed her ultimate departure from the show on and I'm sure this has a factor that there was serious issues with staff and possible sexual bullshit going on backstage.
Really?
That's like rumor. I don't want to like
Not confirmed.
not yet, unconfirmed, but like it's been
Not
implied.
like Janice Rand level where it
made
it into
but
her
like,
book.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the official line is Gates McFadden just did not get along with Maurice Hurley or something like that. But anyway, honestly, like she's not adding much to the show at this point. So I think they take a year off from the character, and then when they come back, she gets a little better, maybe?
Maybe. Because, I mean, at this point, you could have, I feel like, you could have had interchangeable CMOs, like you've had interchangeable chief engineers, but it wouldn't have bothered me because of how little she has actually contributed.
Like, really, it's like, oh, she's mom. She's
like, I feel like that's
Wesley's mom.
I feel like that's the only reason they bothered having a consistent CMO was because she had to be there to be the Elder Crusher.
Yeah.
Keep Wesley in line.
I'd like more out of that character.
Well,
And less out of Wesley.
Hopefully we'll get it in season 3.
Yeah.
But it looks like you're ready to jake us out.
I was given the cards.
Fired.
So,
That's what I'm calling it from now on.
Yeah.
Jaking us
You
out.
don't have to, though. Jake can just take us out on his own. He's a big boy.
Take him away, boys.
Take him away, toys.
Okay, well, this has been A Star to Steer Her By. Thank you for listening. Next time, we will be talking about the final 2 episodes of Star Trek TNG Season 1.
Whoa.
That is Conspiracy. Ooh. And The Neutral Zone. Ooh. You don't sound excited.
That... Are we gonna encounter some fucking more Romulans or some shit? I just don't care.
Probably.
I just
Spoil
don't
it.
care.
Don't spoil what we're gonna find.
I just don't care.
Anything in that neutral zone.
Well, we will find out next time. Until then, like and subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud and on
SoundCloud.
iTunes and Google Play Music podcast. And write us a rating, 1 to 5 stars. Preferably on the higher end of that spectrum. It's up to you. And then also write in a comment telling us what you really think. You can also find us on Facebook.com. Just do a search for The Star to Steer Her By. A Star to Steer Her By. A.
Is it the
You
Facebook?
say A, I say Let's call the whole thing off. Anyway.
Doesn't the A thing actually depend on what
It
type
does.
of letter the next word starts with?
It does.
Okay,
I
great.
think so.
Let's move on.
Anyway.
Sorry.
And you can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at SSHB Podcast. SSHB Podcast. Plosive.
What is happening?
Anyway, thank you very much, Dee, for joining us.
That was a real pleasure. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
having
Dee.
me.
You should join us again soon. It was wonderful
Maybe next
having
week.
you.
Yeah, you really should. You're way better at this than we are.
Yeah, you're like you come with like topics for discussion. It's like, what the hell? All right. Anyway,
just come with hit songs.
So I, of course, am Jake.
This has been Chris.
This has been Ames.
This has been Caitlin.
This has been Janice. We'll always have Paris.
Nice.
Yay.
We will always have Paris, and remember to tune your wank harp.
Just sounds like a pipeline that goes through the Franco brothers.
Oh, the Franco.
That sounded funnier in my head. I'll cut that.
No,
I don't think that.
I'm the editor. You can't stop me.